Okay, everyone. Today we are going to have a double-decker of a lesson. I actually split this up into two separate videos just for the sake of, well, just for the sake of things. First off, we're going to go over two-point perspective in a cityscape. Now, what we went over before was two-point perspective in an enclosed area. Not enclosed space per se, but something that's closer to you, something that's at ground level. For this one, we're going to look at how two-point perspective can be used to make something of a skyline. Now you notice the first thing I've changed here is the location of my horizon line and my vanishing points. Vanishing point 1 and 2 are of course at the opposite ends of the horizon line, but the horizon line is now much higher. So you can already tell from here that we're going to be looking down a lot. So we'll start off with our vectors, making sure to draw lightly. And like we did with 2.4, we need to make sure that our vectors go all the way across, and most importantly, that they intersect. Like so. Now the key difference here is that everything we did before was based on finding the lowest intersection and then just going up. But that works when things are at eye level. In this case, we're looking for squares or rectangles. In which case, I have one right here. And with that space cleared out, I'm going to use my verticals to establish this height. Now remember, unless something falls on the horizon line, there are no horizontal lines to be used here. It's all at an angle or it's all vertical. What we have here is the top of the building. But we're not going to do anything like windows just yet. Let's establish our other buildings first. And we're going to go for this intersection up here that falls above my horizon line. So now we have an idea of how high up we are. Somebody call this a bird's eye view. I'm not sure if I would. Because I mainly equate bird's eye with top down, you see everything below you type deals. And this obviously is not that. And let's see. That works right now. Now with buildings, you might have to wonder then, would that need windows? Yes, it would. Now here's the thing about windows though, I'm not expecting you to draw every single window, and I encourage you to actually look up tall buildings like this, like New York City, Houston, Texas. Austin might have some. You wouldn't know I've never been to Austin. Something to keep in mind is that a lot of these places the windows are all very uniform. I've seen some people try to make more like a brick pattern. That's not how it works. Because of uniformity, some buildings are just nothing but those windows. So I will do both of those things in this example. Now notice I'm also going off of my picture plane. There is no crime in going off picture plane here. there's no crime going on with the picture plane in any of these perspective drawings. Dare I say, nothing makes a drawing feel more larger than life or more out there than actually going outside of where all the paper is. Especially when you get to the end and you can just erase what you don't need or cut it off. You're left with just nice, clean artwork. Now, for those of you that have been having issues with trying to keep everything level with your horizon line, very important, especially if you have a clear ruler, like so, just pivot it around your vanishing point. Now I have our first set of windows. I'm going to establish our light sources over here, which means everything on this side will be in shadow, except for, and just like we did with the last time we did two-point perspective, the windows will stay white. No shading there. A neat trick that I learned back in college from a guy that worked at Marvel was for scenes like this, you can completely black out one side of the building with the exception of the windows. You would then cover that with ink. So all the black wasn't pencil, all the black was pitch black ink. And so the white left behind, you would use paint or marker to create the rays of the sun reflecting off of those windows. And because all this would be black, well, guess what? The black doesn't go away, it doesn't fade. So it leaves behind this really pretty picture. I gotta shade all of these, but I do want that contrast. Like so. Now for the other one, I'll do the other kind of building where it looks like it's practically nothing but windows. Now there are some exceptions to that. The top still has to be solid state, no one's standing on glass. That'll work. And for the ones that are nothing but glass, you'll want to just take your ruler. Now this is still farther back from our one over here. In fact, I'll even boost that outline for the sake of argument. There we go, give it a darker outline. And then with the windows, you don't want them to be as wide as ones here. It's farther back, so we can afford to have thinner lines. Things are closer together. Now to bring them all the way up to this solid state roof. They might ask, well, how are these buildings standing if they're all glass? Like, no, they just have a lot of windows. The infrastructure of these buildings has all the cement and the steel girders and all that. But look how far all this is. This lends to that ability to believe that there is definitely something going on in this building, you just can't see it. Now that we have all these verticals here, all we have to do, let's see, start from over here actually. Pivoting around my vanishing point. Like so. And notice how all the times I am turning my paper around. It is never a bad idea to keep turning your paper. Try to line up with the ones you had before. Now look, if it's not perfect, don't worry about it. Try to go for accuracy. Try for perfection. But what I've always learned is that the attempts for perfection will always matter more than perfection itself. It's a little bit close together because, again, they're kind of wide. Almost done there. And voila. And like before, we can shade in one side. And there we go, 2 buildings. Now, before we try to add in anything else, because we're going to add a lot more buildings here, we're going to establish a street. However, I'm not expecting you to actually get down and put in all the lines for a sidewalk. We just need to make note that a sidewalk or road does exist. Now, I would assume that our buildings, and this is why I say use these picture planes effectively, would probably be somewhere around here in terms of height. So that said, not quite. There we go. Actually, I was off. So more like this, actually. Which means our street just has to flank this over here. And we establish it as a sidewalk. That means we now have an idea of where our other buildings can be. So, right around here. So that's one, have a much smaller one there. Let's make a small adjustment over here. Here our city starts to look a little busier. And you're going like, good Lord, Mr. Scott, this is a lot of lines. Like, yeah, well, guess what? This is what architects have to deal with. All those nice little city scenes you might see in cartoons and video games, someone has to draw this out. I'm going to let this one go off. Picture plane here. And from there, you can just put all your windows you need here. I will establish my building tops here. all the windows you want. Just make sure that one side is shaded so everything has a consistent lighting. But for now, I'll just keep my shading going so at least have something that looks more complete. So if I want to add more windows, I can always just erase them out. Okay, a little bit of roadway here. And a bit over here, just a frame. Actually, let's not do that. Because guess what? There's also one more thing that you can do here. It's our old friend, Mr. Foreground Element. Horizon line is the line where land meets sky. We can assume that everything past here will be our sky. So we can actually just give that some very light shading, or just be some very light color in case you work more color. And yes, for your project, you will need to use color. I must say, well, Mr. Scott, I want more buildings. Does that mean I have to do this all over again? Yes and no. Yes, and that you should still try to get some accuracy in terms of where everything is. No, as in, you can actually start flubbing a lot of this as you get further back, because realistically speaking, you can't really see that far. So you can just start putting in some loose shapes and forms. Especially as you get closer to the horizon line, you can just start kind of putting in shapes. Fun fact that if you look at a lot of drawn art of cities, there is that point everywhere where the artist basically starts flubbing everything they're doing in the background. Adding in extra shadows to fill in space, putting in shapes and just filling them in. Because it adds a sense of density. Some of them will just start scribbling things, really. Because the real value of what they're doing is really in the foreground. Some of that midground. But the background, that's fair game. There are a lot of places that look like, oh, wow, that's a lot of windows. And then you take a close look and realize, oh, it's just a bunch of liquid paper. There you have it, there's a city. You can add all sorts of things, like say, for example, with a little bit of ellipse here, you can get a helicopter pad, roof access, connect some lines. Make more lines. Oh, look, you have a satellite dish. There are all sorts of ways that you can actually go ahead and modify a city to what you want it to look like. These details are what will make your cities really pop. So for the sake of just getting some practice in, I'm going to give you another box. Put in another horizon. Put another horizon line here. 3P1, 3P2. Try making your own. And at 20-some minutes, yeah, let's split this up. So in the next video, we're going to go over 3 points real quick.